Today I'm going to show you guys my favorite way of making turkey for Thanksgiving, and no, it is not the spatchcock method. Turkey time! First thing we need to do is break down the bird, and to break down the bird, I like to start by removing the wings, and all you really need to do is cut between the joints. Once you find the joint, cut down onto that cutting board, and you're going to be able to free the wing from the bird. Do the same thing on the other side, removing both wings from your bird. Now I like to remove the breasts right after that, which sounds really dirty. Cut along the rib cage, making sure you keep as close as possible to that rib cage, and once you reach the neck area, you're going to find another joint. Once you find that joint, make sure you free the skin of the breast from the thigh, so this way you can actually remove it fairly easily. Now Gandalf does want to help, but I can't have him help with this because his claws are not sharp enough. And find the joint of that airline wing. Once you find the joint, you can cut down once again, and you're going to free the breast and the wing from the actual carcass. Do the same thing on the other side, realize you actually missed the joint, which is going to be fine, and just remove the breast from the carcass and then remove the wing separately, since we are going to cook this into a 10-way turkey, or maybe 8-way if you kept the wings on. Now place these all on a sheet tray and begin cutting out the thighs. For the thighs, I like to make sure I let gravity do a lot of the work, so I hold the thigh up while searching for that joint. Turkeys are a lot harder to break down than chickens because they are a lot stronger, but with a little bit of effort and being able to pop those joints, you're going to be able to free the leg and the thigh from the carcass. Do the same thing to the other side, popping the joint as needed to free it from the carcass, and place that onto your sheet tray. What you're left with is the carcass of the turkey. Grab yourself a big old stock pot and place the carcass right into that stock pot and place it somewhere since you don't have any room. Now grab your pile of cut turkey, and we're going to remove the legs from the thighs. The reason why I like removing the legs from the thighs is because we are going to truss the thigh meat, but with the leg meat, you can deep fry those and they come out wonderfully. So remove the thigh from the leg and make sure they are fully separated because that skin is real rough. And you're gonna have a nice thick boy for a thigh. Do the same thing with the other thigh, removing the leg from the thigh, and now you have a 10-way cut turkey. The biggest reason why I like removing all of the meat from the carcass is so that way I can make a really beautiful turkey stock. Try to find a pot that's going to be a little bit bigger than this, but I just kind of shoved mine in there and called it a day. Add the turkey tail and the neck, bring this over to the sink and fill it with water. Now we're going to heat this up, bring it to a boil, so that way we remove a lot of scum from the turkey. Oh, and one thing I forgot to do was actually remove the bones from the thigh meat because we are going to be trussing this. So just go ahead and remove the bone from the thigh and place that into your pot of water to get it going. Now while that pot is getting to a simmer, we're going to prep some mirepoix. I'm using about 3 carrots, 2 onions, and a bunch of celery for this. You just need to rough chop everything. Don't worry about making it fancy. Just make sure it's super clean and ready to go, and just rough chop it. Add in 1 small bunch of peppercorns and 2 to 3 leaves worth of bay leaves right onto that. This is going to be your mirepoix for your stock. Now once your stock has actually come to that simmer, remove it from the heat, drain it all out, add fresh water and all of your mirepoix, bring this back up to a boil and then down to a simmer, and we're going to go ahead and simmer this for about 4 hours. Now after about 4 hours, it is reduced by half and ready to strain. Strain out all of that beautiful turkey stock into a heat-proof container, and we're gonna let this cool down to about room temperature before we throw it in the fridge to fully cool down. The next thing we want to do is start trussing all of our turkey. You do need quite a bit of butcher's twine for this, and I like to make sure I measure out about 1 meter or 3 feet per turkey breast because they're pretty big. So I like to start it skin side down and take the thinner part of the turkey breast, roll it into the middle, making sure you keep this as tight as possible. Yeah, it is kind of difficult to do this, and if you really want to skip this step, you can, but it really makes or breaks the dish. Now bring your butcher's twine underneath the turkey, bringing it up and over the top of it, creating essentially a double loop. I don't know what this knot is called, but it just makes it so that's a little bit tighter. Tighten up the turkey, making sure you bring it back underneath that turkey breast, bring it back over the top of your turkey breast, then doing the same thing and realizing that your butcher's twine is actually too short because this is a big turkey. This is a stupidly big turkey. So after tying this into a knot, grab a second piece of butcher's twine that you're going to need to cut again and tie off the end of that turkey breast. Once you have that tied up, bring it over and around lengthwise so this way you can tighten the entire turkey breast. This is kind of important as well, just so that way everything holds together really nicely when you go to bake it and when you go to sear it. Cut off any excess butcher's twine, and there is your first trussed turkey breast, which does take some effort, I will admit. You're going to use the same technique for the turkey thighs as well, so this way you have nice little plump turkey thighs. I am not the best at trussing, but after about half an hour, I was able to get everything trussed, and now we have our 10-way turkey ready to be brined. Place all of your turkey into a rather deep container container because this does need to be filled with brine. In this case, I'm just using a deep roasting pan for the brine. Now for the brine, I am doing a very regular mirepoix of just celery, carrots, and 1 whole onion along with some garlic. Just give everything a rough chop just like we did earlier for the stock. Don't have to do anything fancy with this. Just toss all of your prepped mirepoix directly on top of that turkey. Now with all of the mirepoix and the turkey ready to go, we do have to make the brine. I'm using 150 grams worth of kosher salt, 150 grams worth of granulated sugar, followed by 1 liter worth of cold water. Once you have all this in your pot, bring it over to the stove to heat up. Oh, and my previous container was a little too big, so I just went ahead and downsized to this bowl. After your liquid has heated up, grab 1 liter worth of ice and add this to your brine liquid, making a mess everywhere, grabbing ice that went rogue and placing it back into the pot. Give this a quick stir to cool down, and once cooled, place this directly on top of your turkey. Add a handful of peppercorns and 2 to 3 bay leaves. Give this a poke just to make sure you do have all of the turkey submerged. Throw a lid on it and let this brine for about 10 hours, or you can just kind of go overnight for the next day when you go to roast it. Oh, and don't forget the rosemary, because you almost forgot the rosemary on the sticky honey roast from Genshin Impact, but just don't forget the rosemary again, Paul. Now the next day, your turkey should be ready to be pulled out of the brine. I'm pulling mine out at that 10-hour mark and letting it hang out on a wire rack over a sheet tray, and I'm gonna place this back into the refrigerator for about an hour and a half just until I'm ready to work with it. The reason why is because I didn't want it to be in the brine too long. Now when you're ready to start cooking this, hit this with a bunch of crushed black pepper and grab a small saute pan and hit this with some olive oil. We're gonna start searing this bad boy. Bring all of your turkey over to make life easier, and over a medium heat, start searing off the skin. We want the skin to actually be a light G-bad, not totally G-bad, because this does have to finish in the oven. So once you have this beautiful light G-bad going on, make sure you do sear each and every side of this roast. This actually gives it a really nice color all the way around, and you're able to sear every little bit of skin on this turkey. Once your turkey looks like this and have some nice G-bad on it, pull it off of the heat and bring it back over to your wire rack. Remove the small saucepan because that was a stupid idea, and get a bigger pan so that way you can sear off multiple pieces. Repeat the process for all of the turkey that you have, getting some G-bad on each and every piece all over all of that beautiful skin, and once you are done, place them back onto that wire rack. After an undisclosed amount of time, you're going to have all of this beautiful G-bad turkey ready to finally be roasted in the oven. Now you are going to need an oven-safe thermometer for this, and make sure you set it to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. By the time the turkey breasts hit 155 degrees Fahrenheit, the thighs should hit 170 Fahrenheit. Now grab yourself a small sauce pot to start making our gravy. You're gonna need a nice heaping tablespoon worth of whole unsalted butter and about 5 sprigs worth of thyme. Remove the thyme leaves from the stems because nobody wants to eat the stems, and give this just a nice rough chop. You wanna make sure that this is nicely chopped so that way it incorporates really nicely into your gravy. Grab all the thyme you just chopped and place this directly onto the butter and bring this over to the stove. I don't know what's happening here, but just make sure you do hit this with some black pepper and a nice pinch of salt, and continue to heat that butter up over a medium heat. Now use an equal portion of flour to your butter. So for instance, I'm using about 35 grams worth of flour, so I'm using about 35 grams worth of butter. Give this a nice little spooning so that way everything comes together, and cook this for only about 2 minutes. After those 2 minutes, grab your nicely congealed turkey stock, look at that thick jiggly boy, and add in 250 milliliters worth of that stock directly to your roux. You do want to make sure that this comes up to that simmer to start really thickening, and I actually had to grab a whisk to bring all of this together. After 4 or 5 minutes, this should start to thicken up, but if it doesn't, feel free to sprinkle in some raw flour and it'll be fine. This is what your thick gravy should really look like. Beautiful, voluptuous, unseasoned, so make sure you do hit this with a hefty amount of salt and black pepper as needed. Once you have that beautifully seasoned, give this a taste, making sure it is to your liking, otherwise it's just going to be super bland, and this is ready to go. Now our turkey, ultimately because of movie YouTube magic, is also ready to go. Once this hit my 155 mark, make sure you pull out that thermometer, bring this up to the stove, and let it rest for 20 to 25 minutes. Absolutely do not cut this without resting. I cannot stress this enough. You do not want to ruin all of this beautifully roasted G-bad turkey by not letting it rest. Once rested, bring this over to your cutting board of choice, and just look at how beautiful those red and blue checkered pajamas really are. Now make sure you do remove all of that butcher's twine so that way you don't eat into it or try to cut their butcher's twine. Let me bring you guys in for this. Start slicing your turkey and take a second just to appreciate the center of this thing. It is beautiful and juicy and ready to be consumed immediately. Don't even plate it up, just start eating it off the cutting board, because that's what we do here in Chef PK's house. I cannot stress to you how delicious this actually is. Slice a few nice thick pieces, depending on how really thick you want them. You can do whatever you want at this point. point. You could cool it down, turn it into a sandwich tomorrow, whatever you want to do. Once you slice it, put it onto your favoriteest plate, making sure you add one of those gorgeously cooked turkey legs, and then slice some of the turkey thigh, which is my favorite. You want to slice this the same way, and look at, just stop eating it. Can you show them for a second? Look at the brine lines on this. They are gorgeous. That's what you're looking for. Now slice all of your turkey thigh, making sure they're around the same thickness as the turkey breast, just for consistency and continuity, or you could just dice it up. You can do whatever you want. I always tell you guys to do whatever you want. Put this on the same plate as everything else, so you have this giant meat platter of turkey. This is how I like my turkey. This is the good. But we still have gravy. Now pretend I added the gravy earlier and I'm just adding more gravy now because you can't go wrong with it. And there is my favorite way of making turkey. There it is, guys, my absolute favorite way of making turkey. The reason why I like doing it this way is because you don't have to fight any bone. You're not gonna have a carcass at the table. You can carve all of this up and put it right on the table and people can just go at it. The other side benefit is that you have access to the bones to make that gravy, so you have really nice turkey stock. Otherwise, yes, you can use pan drippings, but if you can utilize the bones to make stock, to make gravy, it's just gonna be so much better. I also think that the dark meat is so good, because I have been stacking on this, I'm not gonna lie. The dark meat is so good that it actually doesn't need gravy, so that's totally up to you. You can put as much gravy as you want on this. I'm gonna go for the dark meat first. Just look at it. It's so angry. You can see how like tightly packed it is. Oh, this makes me so happy. Cheers. Happy Thanksgiving. Oh my God. That dark meat is really good. The dark meat is super flavorful, super tender. The brine held up really well since I only brined it for about 12 hours before I pulled it out. That's probably my favorite. The turkey breast, honestly, is probably gonna be really good with all, I gotta put this down. The turkey breast is probably obviously gonna be really good as well, but I really like dark meat. I think it's just so much more flavorful, and I probably shouldn't get the biggest bite on earth. You gotta hide behind the camera. Cheers. Ooh, I think I like the white meat better. Now I don't know what to think. These are both really good. Yep. And the gravy, it's rich, full of that beautiful turkey flavor, plus the thyme and that little bit of butter. It just goes a long way. And if you want to go a long way, check out the links below where you can pick up some really cool merch, buy my books, or support me on Patreon. My name is CHEFPK. Get subscribed, and remember, keep playing with the food. And sorry, Matt Pat, but we don't need any spatchcock in this kitchen.